Hi, I'm going to be talking to you about some controversial issues today. I'm expressing my own personal experience and opinion on gender issues. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a medical professional. So, this is my personal experiences, and that's what I'm giving you, and I am giving you my opinion. So, you need to make the right decisions for you on whatever you decide. I realize that there's going to be some people that say what I'm saying is dangerous and reckless. I'm sorry, it's not dangerous and reckless because of the people that I've seen that have went on hormones and have gone through transition, having physical body parts removed, and they are suffering from it afterwards. Now, the next argument would be is that, well, that's a very few amount of people. Well, I think it's quite a few people that are coming up with those issues, and I expect it to increase substantially, given that according to statistics, that the people who deal with gender dysphoria are 1 out of 1,000, and that's in documented material that's supported through the research and studies that I'm seeing cited from a lot of gender clinics. And so, and we know that people are more than 1 in 1,000 people are acting out. It's prevalent in schools. It's prevalent in society. We have a lot of people that are opting for a transition. So I want to share this with everyone. I'm not against you if you want to dress however you want, if you want to have surgery, if you want to make those changes to yourself and you feel it's absolutely important for you to do that. By all means, that's up to you. If you're 18 years of age or older and you have the resources to do that, do whatever you want. It's not on me to stop you from doing that. But I'm offering this so that if you're questioning about it, if you're not sure, if you're a parent, if you're a friend or family member, that you know these things. Now, I before I even dig in further, I'm going to go back to I have a friend who did transition completely, top and bottom surgery, everything. And when I was in the process of transitioning, when I had gone on hormones and was dressing feminine, they actually said, "Don't do it." They kept on saying to me, "Don't do it." And they wouldn't say that publicly to anybody, but they were adamant about it. You do not want to do this. And so there you have it. Now they're still living as female, and they haven't changed on that. But I also know that that person's not very happy in their life, and I'm not sure if the unhappiness has anything to do with gender. I don't think it does. Actually, I think they were just an unhappy person to start with, and they found comfort in transitioning, and I don't think it provided what they expected. And I would say that's why they're telling me not to do it. Why they said don't do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my story and sharing that with you, and some things that I have concerns with over clinics and gender affirming care. And so I remember being as young as 5 years of age, having feelings of being more feminine than being male. And I was more attracted to what the girls did, but I hid it. I mostly did what the boys did, even though I desperately wanted to fit in with the boys, but my mind wasn't working that way. I was more inclined to being interested in what the girls were doing. And that was in the 70s, and it was not a time when gender issues were front and center. There were some people that had transitioned, they were extremely rare. They were, people just didn't talk about them, and people didn't know about them. But they were there in the 70s, just not like we know it today. And that left me feeling very alone and isolated because I had to be careful not to let anyone know how I felt. I was already getting bullied at that time, and I didn't want it to get any worse if somebody found out. So I actually lived my life like that. I had cross dressed throughout my life, and I had my secret stash. There were times that I went out, but it was usually like in Las Vegas. I would go out, and I was very scared going out. But once I got out, I was fine. Nobody ever bothered me, and I managed just fine. I started to transition late in my 40s. I had gone through my third divorce, and quite frankly, I was in a bad place because, I was in a place where everything was pretty much destroyed in my life. I had to hit rock bottom, and I just didn't have any responsibilities. Just my authority on everything had to fell apart, and so I just said, well, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. So I decided I wanted to go on hormones. I came out to my friends and family. I started dressing most of the time in female attire. I was surprisingly around my friends and family were mostly made up of Christians, conservative people, Republicans, and I was amazed because even though I was around people who made jokes about people who were transitioning, when they found out that I was somebody who was struggling with that, they were shocked and surprised, and they ended up quite a few of them ended up doing research and learning more about the situation. But I didn't lose them as my friends; they stood by me. Very surprising. As a matter of fact, it was more of the liberal side that was harder on me because I was a conservative, and they struggled with that fact, and they got mad at the fact that here I am. I was starting to transition, and it didn't reconcile with them that I could be a conservative and also be dealing with gender issues, and what I've had some not so comfortable things. Something else that happened when I started dressing, my anxiety went down, and I was comfortable in my own skin at that time, something that I had not been in before. I was not comfortable in my own skin before that happened. Now, you would think that because all of a sudden I felt comfortable because I was like, oh, I'm okay. I'm presenting as the way I see myself. Um, and I wasn't hiding anything. So I wasn't hiding my secret anymore. So that caused me to lose anxiety and just to calm down. I was out, I was open, I wasn't hiding anything. So, but everything changed one evening in 2016. I was getting ready to go out, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized that what I was doing was crazy, that my real issues were still haunting me. And all those underlying issues that I ran from, that I would dress and I'd like go out and get away from, that I didn't deal with them when I was dressed, but they were still there, and they had nothing to do with gender identity, but they the discomfort was there. Well, when I was dressing, I would still have to deal with all those other issues now because I wouldn't go into a different world of being dressing. So my gender dysphoria was a release for me. It was a place for me to hide underlying issues that I struggled with throughout my life. It was a coping mechanism, and and that just increased anxiety because I was keeping a secret, and I was afraid of being found out about this. The fear of being um, outed throughout my life uh, hit me because really hard, because when I would have times where it seemed like I started to get my life going in the right direction, and everything was seemed like it was really flowing well, and I started to calm down about the other stresses in my life. All of a sudden the anxiety came up because I started fearing that somebody was going to find out about me dressing, about the cross dressing, and about how I felt about that. And then all of a sudden it would ruin everything that I had done, because people would find out about me, and I would have my success destroyed. Um, and that anxiety caused people to sense something in me that wasn't right with me. They couldn't put their finger on it, but they knew that I was hiding something. People could sense I was hiding this thing in it, and that made it difficult with people because people are uncomfortable to work with you because they think that you're not being truthful about this, and so how can they trust you with other things? And so um, they just couldn't see it. And especially since I was into guy stuff, I'm into cars, and there's guy stuff I love to do, I really enjoy doing. And I'm getting back to the point where there are things that I want to do that I've really enjoyed in my life and I'm going to go back to doing. Uh, and so that interfered with the desire to enjoy the feminine lifestyle, to have that escape. And man, that just made a ton of problems for me. I remember when I would go to bed as a little kid, I would sleep, I go to sleep, in my dreams, I would be desperately dreaming that I would wake up a girl and make all the anxiety and the stress go away. That never happened. Obviously, I'm a biological male. I wasn't going to wake up and all of a sudden be a girl. And the truth is I never asked myself that question of, okay, if I had a choice between waking up as a girl or waking up as a boy and being normal and not having that stress of the gender dysphoria, which part would I take? And the truth is that even back then, I think if I would have really asked myself that question, if I would have had a choice and I didn't have the faculties to make that choice then, but if you could make that choice, I would have said, "Hey, I want to be a boy and enjoy life as it is." But that dysphoria, that struggle just never went away. It was with me every day, every hour of my life, and I kept on having that constant struggle of pushing, of being attracted to the feminine stuff because I thought, the feminine side was softer, and I would have less bullying, less challenges, and I would be more accepted and be more comfortable, and I wouldn't have to deal with the bullying of the boys. So I ended up hitting rock bottom in 2014, and like I say, everything collapsed, and that opened the door for me to come out and admit my struggles with gender dysphoria. So when I did, boy, did I come out blazing, and I never do anything. Just slightly do it. If I'm going to do it, I come out of the gate hard on. And so I decided to transition, as fighting this dysphoria just had seemed to be, it seemed like it was never going to go away. It seemed like I was never going to get over it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to embrace it. And society was beginning to be more acceptable of people who transitioned. This was, for me, I came out 6 months before Caitlyn Jenner did at the time. And so I was before that, and I went public and started dressing. And I immediately sought hormones through a clinic that did abortions and who also started providing gender affirmation services. So I went to this clinic, and it was not a Planned Parenthood clinic, but it was a similar clinic. And I made an appointment with the clinic, which was literally 24 hours. Well, let me rephrase that. 24 hours later, I'm in the clinic after making my initial call, meeting with a physician's assistant who wrote a script within 15 minutes without a physical. Now, they did take blood work, and they wrote a script for spironolactone and estradiol. Now, I just looked on the Planned Parenthood websites, and they actually have hormones in their clinics available on the shelf. And so I'm assuming that Planned Parenthood, it is following the same principle that this clinic is. And so there was no counseling at all with a qualified therapist to diagnose. Not at all. And quite frankly, from what I see and what I read, gender affirming clinics aren't not going to do that. The clinic that I went to makes no mention of counseling with either licensed psychologists or psychiatrists under its Trans Health Initiative. I just looked on their website because keep in mind, I went there. I was, I think, in 2014 that I went there. And so we're 10 years later. I checked their website. Their site actually states our protocols are designed to reduce the barrier to healthcare for transgender individuals without compromising the quality of services we provide to all clients. That really scares me because, uh, the quality of services with all clients. Why does my experience matter with this? Because gender affirming care is not taking into account the people who should not go on hormonal therapy, let alone have surgeries that modify bodies without having therapy and going through extensive counseling to ensure people struggling with gender dysphoria don't have underlying issues that eliminate the need to have this type of transition happening and to help them be comfortable in their own skin. So, I mean, I didn't need hormones to get comfortable with myself. I should not have done that. And it's had impacts on my body and on my life by doing that. I believe that gender dysphoria should not be treated by physician's assistants, let alone a doctor that lacks psychiatric and psychological training and certifications. And I completely understand I understand people who struggle with gender dysphoria would seek the easiest access to hormones and modifications to reduce stress and anxiety with gender dysphoria. But what if you could overcome those stresses and anxieties and become comfortable in your own skin as you are? Now, I contacted the gender clinic at the University of Iowa, and it was going to take me 3 to 6 months to get into that clinic. And the financial cost was not something that I could bear because in that clinic, they at that time, they did do psychological evaluations, and they took a lot of time to determine if that's the best course for you to do that. And I wanted that, but I didn't want to wait. I was ready. I was determined. I knew that I had gender dysphoria, and I knew that the only option for me was to transition because it'd been with me all my life. I already knew, so I thought I didn't need psychological or psychiatric help. Unfortunately, at that time, I couldn't foresee what had happened or what was going to happen in my future to make me realize that that's not true, that psychiatric and psychological counseling could have opened up the door for me to come to the realization of where I am today, and for me to be happy as my biological male self, as I am, to be comfortable in my own skin and to be exactly like I was. Once I lost that anxiety, I don't have that anxiety today as my biological male self. I don't have the need to transition, and I've overcome those struggles with that. That's not to say that I'm not attracted to the feminine things and I don't appreciate the feminine things. I love it when women dress up, they wear heels, when they wear makeup, and when they're very stylish. I find that very appealing and very attractive. But today, I enjoy them being that way, not me taking part in that stuff, because I'm not trying to compensate for something that I don't have or I am or am not. I'm comfortable with who I am, the way I am, and it's been a big benefit for me to get there. So, as you know, if you watched any of my other videos, I do spend a lot of time talking about my faith in Christ. And you might be wondering why I'm not talking about Christ in this video, my faith in Christ. The answer is that I moved away from transitioning prior to attending my church and making a commitment to follow Christ, which came 6 months after I made the decision to cease transitioning and realized that I didn't need to do that. And so my walk with Christ, while indirectly has something to do with me ceasing to transition, it wasn't the driving factor. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying you need to come into church to not transition. especially for those people that aren't believers. I don't want That's not what your walk with Christ is about. Your walk with Christ is about a personal relationship with Christ and your belief in Christ and putting that relationship number one. And that helped me to overcome all my other issues that were underlying issues. But I stopped transitioning 6 months prior to coming in. And so please don't think that I'm saying that's the way that you're going to stop, because there's plenty of Christians that do struggle with gender dysphoria, and there are people that have transitioned that have the same ability to access and have a personal relationship with Christ, just in the same way that I do. And gender dysphoria does not stop you from having that relationship. And so that's why this video is leaving that out in my conversation. So at this point, what I want you to know, what I want to share with you, and what I want you to take from this is that gender affirming organizations and clinics, and when I say gender affirming, the affirming is a specific thing. Everybody that I've seen, now there may be some that do differently, but any clinic and anybody that's for gender affirming organizations and clinics, they are focused on transitioning people who are struggling with gender dysphoria. What I don't see is them focusing on helping individuals to overcome gender dysphoria, and more importantly, underlying issues that may be contributing to the gender dysphoria. They are all about treating with hormones, treating with transition, and supporting the process so that the person becomes in line with how they see themselves, with their gender identity that they see themselves as. And so that is concerning to me, because I want people to get help that are dealing with gender dysphoria. I definitely want people to get help. I know it's real, and I know that there are many conservative people there and talking heads that are out there that are beating the drum against you, saying it's not real, it's not a real thing, it's not a real experience. And that's because they don't know, they haven't experienced struggling with gender dysphoria, and they want to discredit. It's also because there is such a movement for gender affirmation, that affirmation is the only way for people who are dealing with these issues. And that is causing many people to take steps to transition and then to detransition, because they realize that while they've struggled with gender dysphoria, that transitioning does not solve the underlying issues, does not solve the major issues that they may be struggling with. And so I think it's very important for everybody on both sides of the issue to take a step back and to say, okay, gender dysphoria is a real issue. It was a real issue for 1 in 1,000 people, according to studies throughout the years. 1 in 1,000 people. But now it seems like it's like 25% of everybody is dealing with some form of gender dysphoria. And I don't believe that to be a case, which tells me that a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues, and they're quickly going to gender dysphoria as the scapegoat, the out to acknowledge and to accommodate for those issues. And I think that's really sad. And that part, my friends, especially those that have come back and said that I'm being dangerous by what I say, that's dangerous. That is unhealthy, and that is not safe. And we should be focused in on helping people to overcome gender issues. And some people may, in fact, the only way they're going to find peace and comfort is through their transition. I don't know that that's true, because I've experienced something else. But even if you do go through transition, let's say you do modify your body, you do all of that, that's not the end of the world for you if you do that and find out that that didn't solve your problems. you still can solve all of your issues that you have. You just have put yourself into a situation where you have a different set of conditions to deal with and to work with in your life. And I do believe whether you have transitioned, whether you have detransitioned, whether you have yet to transition but decide not to transition, anywhere in those ranges, that you can overcome the struggles that you have in your life, and that you can feel secure as you are in your own body, and that it can work out. I think that, gender dysphoria is being used as a scapegoat, in an argument, and both sides of the aisle on the extreme have pushed it too far, and we need to take it for what it is. Now, I'm also going to have some people say that they have studies that prove that gender dysphoria is real. I have seen no study that proves a biological link that affirms gender dysphoria. That said, there are claims in Google searches that say there is a biological component, and that comes in some male to female patients. And when I have clicked on those links, the study synopsis makes the claim that there is a biological marker. But then as you read the studies, it says some male to female patients exhibit some, or may exhibit some anomalies in biological markers, but they are not definitive. When you have a study that says may, and then the title says, yes, it does have biological markers, the study in itself is being misleading at best, providing misinformation. And to me, flat out, that's false. There is not proof of a biological marker by saying there may be a biological marker, because there are some anomalies in some people who are male to female. That doesn't automatically say that is, yes, a conclusive thing. That's not conclusive. I am not saying that there isn't a biological marker in people who struggle with gender dysphoria, because I myself have struggled with gender dysphoria. I know that's a real issue. That is a real problem. Okay. Not discrediting that at all. So is it possible that I have a biological marker that would contribute to me feeling that way? I think it's possible. I may have a marker there. But is there one? No. There is no proof, no definitive proof that there is a biological marker. So at this point, you cannot say that there is a biological marker. You can say that there may be some biological proof as to the existence of it, but that in itself doesn't mean that if you have that biological marker, let's say there is a biological marker, that doesn't in itself mean that you need to transition to be a different gender, or to have a different gender identity to resolve that issue, because there are quite a few people that have gone through that have come back, and so there's not conclusive evidence that that is required. Also, in other studies, and there were studies dating back to before 2014 that I found, that claim that there are markers in the brain, specifically in the gray matter area, where the gray matter sometimes conforms similarly to that of the opposite sex that you feel related to. What's interesting is if you do research on gray matter, and you go to the Mayo Clinic, you go to any of them, and you look up in gray matter changes, okay? And finding similarities in gray matter is not conclusive, because considering the gray matter of brain changes with conditions. It can change with conditions such as age, environment, diseases, and other conditions. What they can't do with matter, according to Mayo Clinic, is that there are no specific treatments to address anomalies in gray matter or to repair matter, but it does change with differing conditions. So, if you have the feelings of in my case, I had the feelings of feminine tendencies. My gray matter probably aligned with more with women, and in the studies that I've read, it's not completely the same, but there are markers that provide some similarities to that. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you have to live your life as a woman. Okay, you have an opportunity to not. And again, you know what? There are people that feel absolutely that they have to do this and that there is no choice. I'm not determining what their choices are. I can tell you is what I experienced is that when I went in for hormones, I was absolutely convinced that I could not live my life without the gender dysphoria taking a dominant effect, having a dominant impact on my life, and that the easiest thing to do was for me to transition. I felt like that I really had no choice. And the reality is, I did have a choice. I just didn't make the choice that really works for me. I hadn't got there yet. And so, but that doesn't, what I experienced doesn't matter to what another person experiences, other than that this is my experience, and if they relate to it, then I hope it helps them. I am open to anyone that can share a link to any study that provides biological proof to gender dysphoria, as it is something that I desperately sought throughout my first 50 years of my life. Now, at this point, it doesn't matter to me because I know that I don't need conclusive proof. I don't need to convince myself that it's definitive. It doesn't matter to me anymore whether it's definitive or not in my personal life on how I live my life, because even if I found where there's biological proof, even if I found a conclusive study to it, I'm really comfortable where I'm at right now. I don't have to change, and I'm not going to. There is too much work to transition, and it's just not necessary. I'm good where I'm at, and I know that I don't have to worry about it anymore. So I'm not going to change. But I also don't want to deny proof to someone else who is struggling, because I don't want anybody to hurt anymore with it. I want people to be able to get over this issue. I struggled with it for so long. I know how painful it is. And lastly, psychiatrists and psychologists depend on you being truthful with them. If they don't know what you are feeling or thinking, if you haven't told them everything, then they're treating you best as they can with limited information. That can make for a misdiagnosis. And I realize this because I went to a psychologist for 10 years over ADHD, trying to be treated for ADHD. And then when I came out, I was visiting a psychiatrist that he works with, and I go, oh, by the way, I happen to be dealing with gender dysphoria, and this is what I've been dealing with all my life. And he said to me, he goes, I wish you would have told me that when you first came to me. He goes, because I couldn't treat you with that. I would have sent you someplace else with somebody that could work with you. And we wasted a lot of time in an area where I needed information that you didn't give me. So that said, psychiatrists and psychologists really need to know what you're thinking. You need to be truthful with them. If you walk in there, don't go in there determined to have them diagnose you with gender dysphoria or to have them fix you. You need to tell them how you really feel. And I know that's hard, and sometimes you don't know that, and that's what they're working to get at. So make sure you tell them the truth as much as you can, and that you don't hold anything back, so you get the best treatment possible. With all this, I'm going to go back to, and I'm expressing again, this is my own personal experience and opinions on gender issues. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a medical professional. I am simply a person who has experienced this in my own life. You should not make your decisions based upon what I think or what I feel. What you should do is you should work through the troubles that you have, and or the challenges that you're dealing with, and you should seek out as much information as possible. But I implore you to be open to many different resources that uh, uh, you use good decision making before moving forward. I know it's a difficult issue, and I know a lot of people are scared. They're scared about people hurting themselves, and you know what? I don't want anybody to hurt themselves, and I realize that can be challenging. But making the wrong decision can be very damaging. And I just hope I've helped. I really do. And I want you to have a blessed day, and thanks for watching.